Sam, we need to make AI great again, just like we did with America.
Mr. President, AI development is already progressing rapidly with proper safeguards in place.
Safeguards? We don't need safeguards holding back American innovation. You should be moving faster.
G'day, mate. You all set for the project kickoff this evening?
Almost there, just sorting out some last-minute slides over a chai break.
Sounds good. Excited to see you and the team smash it at the meeting.
Too right. Let's give it a rip a go and make this project a success.
This has got to be one of the best voice cloning text-to-speech generators we have so far. It's called VibeVoice by Microsoft, and best of all, it's free and open source, so you can download it and run it offline for unlimited times. Plus, this can generate outputs that are over 90 minutes long with up to 4 distinct speakers, so you can easily create podcast episodes or audiobooks from this. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to install this on your computer. But before we do that, let's dive in with some impressive things that it can do. So here are some of my personal demos. First, I wanted to see how good it is at cloning the voices of existing people. In this example, I have 2 speakers. The first speaker is Trump, so I just uploaded a 22-second audio clip of him and it basically cloned his voice. Here's what the original audio sounds like.
I said we're going to try and get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term. Eggs. So when I got in, the press went absolutely crazy the first week. They said, eggs have quadrupled in price. I said, I just got here. Tell me about it.
Alright, so that was Trump's voice, and then for the second speaker, I'm going to use Sam Altman, and it's just going to be 9 seconds of his original voice. Let me play this for you first.
That's definitely a change to my worldview. I think kind of like the history of scientific discovery is that humans are less and less at the center.
Alright, and then for my input transcript, I basically linked it to a text file, which I'm going to pull up over here. So here's the transcript, and let me play you the result.
Sam, we need to make AI great again, just like we did with America.
Mr. President, AI development is already progressing rapidly with proper safeguards in place.
Safeguards? We don't need safeguards holding back American innovation. You should be moving faster.
Responsible innovation is key, Mr. President.
This indeed sounds like Trump and Sam Altman talking, and it was able to clone this with just like a few seconds of their voices. This is incredibly good at cloning voices accurately. Now on their official demo page, it says that this has context-aware expression, so it can automatically apply the correct emotion or expression to the voice based on the context of the transcript. So I'll show you some of my demos as well, but here is their official demo.
I can't believe you did it again. I waited for 2 hours. 2 hours! Not a single call, not a text? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was, just sitting there alone?
Look, I know, I'm sorry, alright? Work was a complete nightmare. My boss dropped a critical deadline on me at the last minute. I didn't even have a second to breathe, let alone check my phone.
A nightmare? That's the same excuse you used last time. I'm starting to think you just don't care.
And this goes on, but as you can hear, it's able to apply the right expressiveness based on the context of your transcript. So let's test this out. Here is my transcript, and it's just a monologue for now. It's a mixture of both happiness and excitement, but then also sadness, and then finally we have anger over here. So here is my input voice. It's just 14 seconds. Let me play this for you first.
You don't know how much trouble you've gotten yourself into. Look, if one of the others get to you first, they'll report you. Alpha Grant has a search out. And if they see you on human territory, they'll be shunned.
Alright, so that's the input voice, and we are going to clone her voice and get her to speak this transcript. So here is the result from that.
I can't believe we finally did it! This is the best moment of my life! But now, thinking back, maybe I should have been more careful with who I trusted. It hurt so much to realize I was betrayed by someone I cared about. Honestly, I'm furious! How could they do this to me after everything we've been through?
And you know, that's actually pretty good. As you can see, it does sound more excited and happy over here, followed by some gradual disappointment and sadness, and then finally she does sound really furious at the end. So VibeVoice can indeed automatically apply the correct expressions and emotions based on the context of the transcript. Alright, here's another test that I did. This time it's of a couple arguing, and again I wanted to see if it can automatically apply the right expressions throughout this transcript. Here's what I used as the input clip for the first voice to clone.
Hi there! Need a smart, confident, friendly young adult voice? I'm ready and willing. So let's get started and get your audience absolutely hooked.
And then here's the second voice.
I expect nothing but excellence from this team. Let's set the bar high and exceed it.
Notice that this clip is only 8 seconds, this one is only 4 seconds. Let's see if it can accurately clone both their voices and get them to speak this out. So here's the result.
You said you'd clean the kitchen. How much longer do I have to wait?
I was busy all day. I'll get to it later, I promise.
Ugh, it's always later with you. I'm sick of doing everything.
I'm not avoiding it. I just had a hectic schedule today.
Next, let's test the hell out of it further. So I'm going to use this transcript of 3 speakers. And so first of all, here's the input clip for the first speaker. This is going to be a male voice with a British accent.
There is an art, the Hitchhiker's Guide says, or rather a knack to flying. It lies in learning how to throw yourself at the ground and miss.
And then here's the second speaker.
Combinations of different textures and flavors create a perfect harmony. The succulence of the steak, the tartness of the cranberries, the crunch of pine nuts, and creaminess of blue cheese make it a truly delectable delight.
So this is a chipmunk sounding voice. And then finally we have Furina from Genshin Impact.
I'm very confident in my singing skills, but there aren't many pieces of music that are worthy of my vocal prowess.
Alright, so note that the speakers here are denoted by 1, 2, or 3, and here is the transcript. Let's play the output and see what this sounds like.
Are you both prepared and ready for the big meeting this afternoon?
I'm nearly ready, just taking a moment to grab a fresh cup of coffee to stay energized.
I'm in the same boat, just picking up a quick coffee before heading over to join you.
That's fantastic to hear. Looking forward to seeing both of you there shortly.
Absolutely! Let's put our all into this and make sure we nail the presentation.
Definitely. I'm excited and ready to contribute to making this a success.
And as you can hear, this is extremely good at cloning the voices, including the tone and the accent of each voice. I mean, the first speaker does sound like the British male, the second one sounds exactly like the chipmunk voice, and the third one sounds exactly like Furina, including her, over-expressiveness. This is really good for voice cloning. Now, here they say that VibeVoice can also do multiple languages. Now, on their official demo page, it only shows us some Mandarin and English examples. Let's see if it can do different languages like Japanese, Spanish, and German. So here's what the transcript looks like. First of all, I'm just going to get the Japanese person to speak Japanese, and then the Spanish person to speak Spanish, and then the German person to speak this German sentence. And then for your reference, here's the input clip for each speaker, which I used to clone their voice. So here's the Japanese person.
新しい体験があなたを待っています。これから始まる AI との会話をどうぞお楽しみください。まるで友人と話しているかのように感じていただければ幸いです。
Alright, and then here's the Spanish person.
A veces solo necesitas una voz clara y directa que transmita la información de manera sencilla y efectiva, sin rodeos ni complicaciones.
Alright, and then finally, here is the German speaker.
Sie ließ sich auf die Couch in ihrer kleinen Wohnung fallen, schnappte sich das Buch und begann zu lesen. Ein Lächeln umspielte ihre Mundwinkel.
Alright, so here's the transcript. Let's play this generation.
昨日の夜、友達と一緒に新しいレストランで美味しい料理を食べました。
Cuando termine de estudiar, quiero viajar por todo el mundo y conocer diferentes culturas.
Am Wochenende haben wir eine lange Wanderung im Wald gemacht und die frische Luft genossen.
And for the most part, this sounds pretty good. Like, the first person is actually speaking this Japanese very accurately. It sounds like the Spanish was also spoken very naturally. Now, I'm not German, so I have no idea if they pronounced this German sentence correctly. So let me know in the comments below if it actually pronounced this correctly. Now, back to their demo page, they demonstrate that you don't have to just get one person to speak a sentence in a separate language. You can mix different languages as they speak out a sentence. So let's actually try this out. For this example, it's just going to be one speaker, and it's going to be a mix of English and Chinese and Korean. Let's see if she can pronounce all three of these languages accurately. Now, to make this even trickier, I'm going to use this Japanese voice to clone. Let me play this for you first.
新しい体験があなたを待っています。これから始まる AI との会話をどうぞお楽しみください。まるで友人と話しているかのように感じていただければ幸いです。
So it's the same Japanese voice as before, and I deliberately chose this voice to see if it can actually apply a Japanese accent to the English. So let me play you this generation.
Welcome back, friends. 今天我们要学习一些 Korean expressions, but I'll be guiding you in English so it's comfortable. For example, if you want to say thank you, 在中文我们说谢谢, 그리고 한국어로는 감사합니다라고 말해요.
And it absolutely nailed this. So the English does have a Japanese accent to it, as if the person saying this is Japanese. It sounds so accurate. And then the Chinese also sounds accurate, plus the Korean over here is also accurate. So this is extremely good at capturing accents and also speaking out different languages throughout your transcript. Now, along the lines of accents, let's try a fun example. I'm gonna get two speakers to read out a transcript, but the first speaker is gonna have an Aussie accent, and the second speaker is gonna be an Indian woman. In fact, here's the input clip for each speaker so it can clone their voice. So here's the Aussie guy.
G'day, cobbers. My voice is a fair dinkum Aussie voice. Great for a ripper yarn about life down under. You'll be a true blue Aussie in no time, mate.
Alright, and then here's the Indian woman.
Elevate your narrative with an Indian female voice that ignites curiosity and transforms every line into a captivating story.
Alright, so let's see if I can get them to speak out this transcript while maintaining the accent. Here's what the generation sounds like.
G'day, mate. You all set for the project kickoff this evening?
Almost there. Just sorting out some last-minute slides over a chai break.
Sounds good. Excited to see you and the team smash it at the meeting.
Too right. Let's give it a rip a go and make this project a success.
This is so good. It completely nailed the Aussie and Indian accent. This dude sounds super Aussie, and then the Indian accent also sounds really good. So as you can hear from this example, it's totally able to clone and capture different accents. Speaking of AI tools, you've got to check out Artlist, the sponsor of this video. Artlist is the ultimate platform for video creators. It's a suite of high-quality digital assets and AI tools. They offer hundreds of thousands of curated music, sound effects, cinematic stock footage, and advanced AI features like video generation and AI voiceovers. They've just integrated VO 3, which enables you to produce cinematic quality videos with synced audio. Simply enter a text prompt like this and click generate. And here is what we get. You can also upload an image to use as a reference and get the characters to speak like this.
AI never sleeps. And this week has been absolutely insane.
Artlist also has a powerful image generator and a voiceover tool. You can create studio quality sound in over 21 languages with customizable settings.
احكي قصتك تماما.用你想象嘅方式講述你嘅故事. Powiedz swój příběh tak, jak ho vidíš.
And unique voice effects.
Listen, I lost my phone. I'm calling you from Jason. Can he come sleep over?
Your scent, your fear. It intoxicates.
He's gone down like a sack of spuds, but the ref's having none of it.
Okay, so Lisa brought those lemon bars again.
Artlist is the ultimate resource for creators. Try it out for free via the link in the description below. And for any annual plan, get 16% more AI credits and 2 months for free. Now, here's a really cool feature of VibeVoice that I haven't seen with other text-to-speech generators or voice cloners, which is that it can even capture music and generate that in your output. So here's a demo from them.
Welcome to Tech Forward, the show that unpacks the biggest stories in technology. I'm your host, Alice, and today we are diving into one of the most anticipated and frankly, most chaotic tech launches of the year, OpenAI's GPT-5. The hype was immense, the teasers and leaks building for weeks. On August 7th, it finally dropped.
This goes on and on, but as you can see, or hear I should say, there's some background music along with this generation. So let me try to recreate this. So in order to include background music in your generation, you basically need to have background music in your input audio, which you want to clone. So here I basically took a voice and then I overlaid some background music into this clip. So here's what the female speaker sounds like.
Hi there! Need a smart, confident, friendly young adult voice? I'm ready and willing. So let's get started and get your audience absolutely hooked.
Alright, and then here's the second voice. It's going to be a British male, and again I overlaid some music into the background of this clip.
There is an art, the Hitchhiker's Guide says, or rather a knack to flying. It lies in learning how to throw yourself at the ground and miss.
And then here's the transcript. Let's see if it can generate the two voices speaking this out with the background music included.
Welcome to the Tech Dive, your go-to podcast for the latest technology trends, innovations, and breakthroughs.
We'll be exploring everything from cutting-edge gadgets to groundbreaking software and the impact of tech on our daily lives.
Each week, we'll dive into tech topics that matter and break down concepts into easy-to-understand conversations.
So whether you're a tech enthusiast, a professional, or just curious about how technology shapes the world, you've come to the right place.
And you know, it's pretty good. So it was able to add music to the background of this generation. Now the music doesn't sound exactly like the music which I added in these reference audio clips, but it's pretty close. It does have the same lo-fi vibe and drum beat as the original music. So if you want to generate a really long podcast episode or audiobook with music, then this is like the only tool that has this feature included. And then finally, note that VibeVoice can generate audio that's over 90 minutes long. So here's an example of a generation which is like 93 minutes long. I'm just going to play you like the first few seconds of this.
Hello and welcome to Planet in Peril. I'm your host, Alice. We're here today to discuss a really sobering new report that looks back at the last 10 years of climate change, from 2015 to 2025. It paints a picture not just of steady warming, but of a dangerous acceleration. And to help us unpack this, I'm joined by our expert panel. Welcome, Carter, Frank, and Maya.
Hi, Alice. It's great to be here. I'm Carter.
Hello, I'm Frank. Good to be on.
And I'm Maya. Thanks for having me.
And so this goes on and on for 90 minutes. Obviously, I'm not going to play you the whole thing. But again, just note that it can generate outputs that are super long. So this is really good for like creating audiobooks or long form podcast episodes. All right, so those were some of my demos. Hopefully you can see how good this is. In fact, if you look at this comparison on how many times a model is preferred by a human versus other models, you can see that the larger version of VibeVoice was preferred more often than the text-to-speech from Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is already really good and expressive, and 11 Labs version 3, plus Higgs Audio and Sesame, which is all the way down here. So don't take my word for it. According to this benchmark, VibeVoice is the most preferred text-to-speech generator. All right, next, let's dive into the specs of this, and then, of course, I'm going to show you where and how to use this. So they've actually announced 3 different models. There's a 0.5 billion parameter model, which is the smallest, and this is suitable for real-time streaming. Unfortunately, they have not released this yet. However, they have released VibeVoice 1.5b and then also VibeVoice Large, which has 7 billion parameters. It's still pretty small, so both of these can be run on most consumer-grade GPUs. It's just that the smaller one has a larger context length, so you can fit a longer transcript into this, and it can generate audio around 90 minutes long, whereas for the 7 billion parameter version, because it's larger, it would produce outputs that are better quality and higher fidelity. However, it has a smaller context length and a shorter max generation length. So it really depends on what you prefer. All right, next, let's go over where you can use this. So if you don't have a nice CUDA GPU, the nice thing is they've released a free Hugging Face demo for you to use this out online. So here's what the interface looks like. And unfortunately for this online platform, you can't input your own voices for it to clone. So you can only choose from these default voices that they offer you. And then over here is where you would choose the different model, either the 7 billion parameter model or the 1.5B model. And then here is where you would select the number of speakers. Again, this can do up to 4 speakers. And then here is where you would select the voice of each speaker. Here is where you would input your transcript, and note the format here. You need to denote the speaker using speaker 1 : like this, or speaker 2, etc., etc. And then afterwards, you simply click Generate Podcast over here. Now for Hugging Face, you do get some free daily credits, but you can only run this like a few times every day before you run out of credits. So the best way to use this is to install it locally on your computer so you can run it for free for unlimited times. Plus, you can input any voice to clone, as I showed you in the demos earlier. Now, there are several ways for you to download this, but the easiest and most customizable way is using ComfyUI. If you haven't heard of ComfyUI, this is the most popular platform for running open source image, video, and audio generators on your computer. This is especially flexible if you have low VRAM. Now, if you're new to ComfyUI, all these nodes and noodles might look very complicated to you, but it's actually really easy to use once you get the hang of it. In fact, see this video where I do a full tutorial on ComfyUI. Anyways, back to this tutorial, I'm going to assume you already have ComfyUI installed. And what we're going to do is simply install this custom node called VibeVoice ComfyUI by EnemyXNet. So I'll link to this GitHub in the description below, but if you scroll down a bit, here are all the instructions on how to install this. So let's go over all of these steps one by one. First of all, we need to navigate to this custom nodes folder and then use git to clone this repository. So I'm going to go to ComfyUI and then custom nodes. And then up here, I'm going to type in cmd. And this is basically going to open up my command prompt within this custom nodes folder. So the next step is to git clone this repository. So I'm just going to copy this line and paste it in here. Perfect. After that's done, we just need to restart ComfyUI, and apparently the nodes will automatically install VibeVoice. So I'm going to go ahead and open up ComfyUI. And as you can see, once I load this up, it's automatically installing VibeVoice. There's no progress bar or anything, so you just need to keep waiting for this to finish. Alright, and then afterwards, it should open up ComfyUI. Now, going back to our ComfyUI folder, let's navigate to custom nodes, and you should see VibeVoice ComfyUI over here. Let's click into this, and then in examples, you should see these workflows. So you can just drag and drop any one of these onto your interface. Let's try this multiple speaker one. I'm going to drag it and drop it on my interface, and here is what it looks like. Let's go over the settings really quickly. Here is where you would upload a short clip of the voice which you want to clone. So notice that this voice over here is set to speaker 1, this voice is set to speaker 2. You can also add additional voices for speaker 3, so I just need to double click anywhere and then type load audio without a space, and then drag this connector to speaker 3 if I want to add a third speaker. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at 2 speakers, so I'm going to delete that node. And then for the first speaker, let me upload an audio clip. Let's try this chipmunk voice.
The combinations of different textures and flavors create a perfect harmony.
And then for the second voice, let me use Sam Altman's voice. So let me play this sample for you.
That's definitely a change to my worldview. I think kind of like the history of scientific discovery is that humans are less and less at the center.
All right, and then over here is where you would enter the transcript. So notice that you would denote the speaker in square brackets like this. So this is the first speaker, you would get them to say this. Here's the second speaker, which would say this. And then here we are going back to the first speaker. So let me just leave the transcript at the default. And then over here is where you would select the model. Again, there are 2 different models you can choose from. There's a 1.5 billion parameter model, which is smaller and can generate faster. Plus it can create a longer generation of over 90 minutes. However, the quality would be slightly lower than this 7 billion parameter model, which is going to be larger and generates slower, but it's going to be better quality. For me, because I do have enough VRAM, I'm going to use this 7B version. And then for the attention type, if you have any one of these methods pre-installed to speed up your generation, you can use that. But I'm just going to set it to auto for it to auto detect how to accelerate this. Now, this setting is really important. Notice that when you generate this, it basically loads your VibeVoice model onto your GPU's VRAM. And this setting, free memory after generate, if you set that to true, it basically unloads this model from your GPU's memory after it generates. This is good if you only want to generate one output and then do something else. So that would free up your VRAM for other tasks. However, if you want to generate multiple outputs, then it's best to leave this to false so that this model is kept within your VRAM and you don't need to load this up again for your subsequent generations. And then for diffusion steps, this is basically how many steps you want the AI model to go through before generating your audio. So in general, the more steps you have, the better quality your generation will be, but it's going to be a bit slower. And at a certain point, you're going to get diminishing returns. So if you set it to like 40 or 50, that's often way too many steps, and you're just going to be wasting compute at that point. In contrast, if you set this number to lower, then it's going to generate faster, but at the sacrifice of some quality. It seems that the sweet spot here is 20 steps. So let's just leave it at that. And then seed is basically the starting point of your generation, because there could be almost an infinite amount of generations with your two speakers and this transcript, because this is generative AI. And then the seed of 42 is just one of those infinite generations. Now, if you set this seed to fixed and you keep all the settings the same with the same transcript and the same voices, you're going to get the exact same generation as before. So if you want to get a slightly different generation, you would set this to randomize, which is basically going to randomize the seed. And then CFG basically controls how literally you want the AI to follow your prompt up here. And then temperature is kind of similar. It determines the randomness or variability of your output. So a lower temperature would make the output more predictable and consistent, whereas a higher temperature would give it more creativity and diversity. And then top P is kind of a similar thing. A lower value would produce more focused and consistent results, whereas a higher value would introduce more diversity. So feel free to play around with these settings to see how it changes the consistency or expressiveness of your generation. And then one last thing, you can either input your transcript over here, or what you can do is delete this, and then down here you can click on this node and then press Ctrl B to unbypass this, or you can right click this and then click on bypass over here, which would remove the purple highlight. Now this node basically allows you to use a text file where you have saved the transcript. So you can simply paste in the transcript in any text file and then save the text file in your ComfyUI input folder. So notice that I have transcript.txt over here. So then afterwards, I can click on this dropdown and select my transcript.txt and then drag this node and connect it over here. And if I do this, it will basically load the transcript from this transcript.txt file. But for over here, I'm just going to leave everything at the default and then click run. Now notice that for the first time you run this, it's going to download the model which you specified over here. So when I click into here, notice that it's downloading all these files, and this 7 billion parameter model is about 17 gigabytes, so it's gonna take a while. All right, after installing everything, now it's loading the checkpoint into my GPU to do the inference. And then now it's generating the audio. All right, so that was pretty quick. It only took like less than 2 minutes to generate this audio. Let's press play.
Hello, this is the first speaker.
Hi there, I'm the second speaker.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Holy smokes, that actually does sound like Sam Altman. But anyways, there you go. That is how you can get VibeVoice up and running on your computer so you can use it offline for unlimited times. Now, if you've been following my channel, notice that I've reviewed a ton of these free and open source text-to-speech and voice cloning generators on my channel before. Another really popular one is called F5TTS. and another one is called Zonos. Both of these can also allow you to control expressions and emotions within the transcript. So honestly, all of these text-to-speech generators are pretty close. It really depends on your personal preference and your use case. Anyways, if you're interested in these other open source text-to-speech generators, I'll also link to my tutorials on these in the description below. And that sums up my tutorial and review of VibeVoice. Let me know in the comments what you think of this, and if you run into any errors during the installation, welcome to paste the error message in the comments below and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you, so if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week, I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel, so to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.